Hi, I'm back with another video, and the reason why I haven't made any content for over 2 years is because in February 2023 I entered a tournament, and right before we start practice, the tournament director runs over to me and he's like, "No, you're going to bowl on these other lanes." So I grab my stuff, run over to the other pair, we start practice, and in that moment of running over there, I must have stepped in something, and immediately in practice I fell down incredibly hard on my right knee. And I know you think, how bad could tripping be? But this was like super bad, and my knee was in pain for months afterwards, and I tried to just change the soles on my bowling shoes and bowl through it for that tournament. And of course I shot like 136 the first game, and it took me like 4 games just before I had anything close to a normal approach. And then the next time I went bowling, instead of this being out of my mind, it was in my mind again. So it would take me 1 to 2 games before I felt comfortable. And then the next time I go bowling after that, it was in my mind even more. So instead of just getting over this, it became this psychological thing that just started to snowball and get worse and worse. And then I started to do a lot of this, which I only have, I think, one time on video, where it's like I'm so scared of falling that my left leg just jabs into the approach as I go into my slide, and I started to fall down a lot. And the weird thing about this motion is it didn't feel like a normal stress response, like I'm tentative, like I didn't really go into my slide. This is just like my left leg spasming as I'm going into my slide, totally outside of my control. So the best explanation I have for what was going on is sports dysautonomia, which is most commonly called the Yips. And this is something that people will talk about a lot in golf. There's also been like more famous baseball cases of this, like Chuck Knobloch, Rick Ankiel, Steve Sachs. But for whatever reason, if you YouTube bowling and Yips, it's like no one talks about this. Except for Shannon O'Keefe, although I don't think that she's used the exact same terminology, but definitely anyone who's interested in bowling psychology should check out the stuff from Shannon O'Keefe. I want to differentiate sports dysautonomia from being stressed or feeling the pressure. Dysautonomia is going to be an involuntary muscle contraction. This is not necessarily going to get any better with relaxation methods such as deep breathing or visualization, and it can happen to a basic movement which has been practiced thousands of times, and this can just suddenly feel impossible. Now, both sports dysautonomia and just throwing a bad shot because you're feeling stressed, like both of those are mental phenomenons. And it's not always necessarily all one or all the other. There can be a continuum of partially one and partially the other. And going back to this shot, I hope it makes sense that this isn't, oh, I pulled the ball because I was stressed out or something. This is me just going into a slide, which I have literally done tens of thousands of times, and like out of nowhere, my body is doing something very strange. So this began in February 2023, and it got worse for like 5 months in a row, and then I just fixed the problem almost by accident in the span of a week. And I was just so sick of this happening that in bowling league I put on a number 10 sole on my shoe instead of the 8 that I normally wear. And the number 10 is just ridiculously slippery, and it's something that I would never wear unless there's like gook on the lanes or something. So I couldn't go through like my normal approach wearing that, but it was so slippery that I think I just reprogrammed my subconscious mind to not worry about sticking. So this is how I've come to understand what happened. There was a triggering event, which was the injury, which led to a subconscious belief in being in danger when I went bowling. And that caused the muscle spasms totally outside of my control. And the way I fixed this was not by telling myself that I was safe, not through any psychological means, but rather by bowling with way too slippery shoes and thus giving my subconscious mind the feedback that I was not going to stick with my foot on the approach, that I wasn't going to trip over myself, and that thus bowling was safe. So in summary, what worked was giving the subconscious mind opposite feedback. If there's anyone else out there watching this who has some type of yips or dysautonomia, I hope that's a little bit helpful, but whatever opposite feedback is that's going to be different for each person. Things that did not work, again, relaxation techniques. I don't want to be repetitive about it, but going through this problem, I would go online and look at videos and articles and all these things about how to get over such a problem in sports and so many relaxation techniques stuff. And it was all just a waste of time. It was counterproductive because then when that stuff did not work, it would just make me feel like this was an impossible problem to get over. Practicing my way out of it. I tried to practice like 90 games a month in order to just get out of it, and all I did was reinforce the problem. And then because I was bowling really weird, because I was sticking my left leg into the approach, it started to mess up the rest of my game, and that took significantly longer to recover from than the actual dysautonomia. And then bowling in tournaments or in more stressful situations, because then there were some tournaments I wanted to do, and all it did was make the problem worse to go out and bowl in a more stressful situation. What I really should have done is maybe take some time off, just bowl league each week for a couple of months. Then I probably would have gotten over this a lot more quickly and without messing up my game. This is me bowling in January 2023, and you could see that I'm not falling or anything. I'm about hitting the same target down lane with each shot. You know, this looks pretty smooth, consistent, simple. I was getting good enough that I started to like cash in some local like sports shot tournaments. And then if I go to just a couple of months later, I look like a disaster. You know, like, look at this. This is atrociously bad. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Here's another horrible shot from the summer of 2023 in the Sports Shot League there. And you can see my arm swing is just going all over the place. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then going back to a shot before I hurt my leg in December 2022, you see I'm not doing anything weird with my arm. I'm in balance, I'm not tentative, and I was bowling much better then. Here are some shots from me in the summer 2025, and I think physically my game is better than it has ever been before, but it took a lot of work for me to undo all the damage that happened in 2023. I eventually had to take lessons from someone local who's a PBA bowler, and he very quickly kind of fixed my arm swing, and I got it back to where it was before all this happened. And then it took a couple of months for me to practice that motion and do it with some confidence in league again. I do plan on making more content pretty soon. In fact, I never planned on going on a break at all for making YouTube videos. It's just once I hurt my leg and I started struggling so much with all the psychological stuff, I just had no confidence, not only in my ability to bowl, but I didn't think I had anything worthwhile to share on YouTube. And that's why I just stopped making videos. But right now, I think I have learned quite a lot the last 2 years and I have a lot to share. So I will be uploading new stuff very soon.